It was one of those perfect Saturday afternoons that make you want to get out of the house. The sun was shining, and Staff Sergeant Angela Thompson had just finished a grueling week of training exercises at the base. She decided to treat herself to some retail therapy at the local shopping center, wearing her favorite blue jeans and a comfortable t-shirt. After 8 years of service and countless missions overseas, Angela had learned to appreciate these simple moments of normalcy. The parking lot was packed, as usual for a weekend. Cars were circling like sharks, everyone looking for that perfect spot close to the entrance. Angela drove her modest sedan slowly through the rows, her military training making her naturally observant of her surroundings. She noticed families loading shopping bags, teenagers hanging out near the food court entrance, and elderly couples taking their time crossing the lanes. After about 5 minutes of searching, Angela spotted it, a car pulling out of a prime spot just 3 rows from the main entrance. She put on her turn signal and waited patiently as the other driver maneuvered out. This was the kind of small victory that could make your whole shopping trip better, she thought with a smile. As she began to turn into the space, a loud, aggressive honk shattered the peaceful afternoon. A large, gleaming white SUV came speeding down the aisle from the opposite direction, barely slowing down as it approached. Angela could see 2 people inside. A middle-aged couple who looked like they'd just stepped out of a country club catalog. The woman in the passenger seat was already rolling down her window, her perfectly manicured hand waving frantically. The man driving had his jaw clenched, gripping the steering wheel so tight his knuckles were white. Angela had seen that look before, entitled people who thought the world revolved around them. She continued her turn into the parking space, knowing she had clearly been there first and had already signaled her intention to park. The SUV screeched to a halt just inches from her car, and the honking continued, now accompanied by shouting. "Hey, that's our spot," the man yelled, his face turning red with anger. "We've been waiting for it." Angela took a deep breath, the kind she'd learned to take before diffusing tense situations in the field. She finished parking her car properly, making sure to stay within the lines. Through her rearview mirror, she could see the couple getting more agitated by the second. The woman was now out of the SUV, her designer handbag swinging as she marched toward Angela's car. The man followed, his polo shirt stretched tight across his chest as he puffed himself up. Several other shoppers had stopped to watch the scene unfold, some pretending to check their phones while obviously recording. Angela knew this situation could go south quickly. She'd faced hostile situations before, but those were in combat zones where the rules of engagement were clear. This was different. This was supposed to be a peaceful Saturday afternoon in suburban America. She checked her surroundings once more before opening her door. The couple was now standing right beside her car, blocking her exit. The woman's face was twisted in an ugly sneer, while the man had positioned himself to appear as intimidating as possible. "You need to move your car right now," the man demanded, his voice dripping with contempt. "We saw that spot first." Angela stepped out of her car with the calm confidence that came from years of military training. She stood tall, her posture perfect, and looked the couple directly in the eyes. She didn't know it yet, but this simple shopping trip was about to become a defining moment, not just for her, but for everyone who would later hear this story. The afternoon sun cast long shadows across the parking lot as the confrontation began to draw more attention. What started as a simple dispute over a parking space was about to reveal something much uglier lurking beneath the surface of this seemingly ordinary day. The man's face grew redder with each passing second, veins bulging on his forehead. His wife stood beside him, arms crossed, tapping her expensive shoes on the pavement. Angela remained calm, her years of military discipline helping her maintain composure in the face of their growing hostility. "I was here first," Angela explained in a steady voice. "I had my signal on and was already turning when you arrived." The woman let out a harsh laugh. "Oh, please, we've been circling this lot for 20 minutes. You people always think you can just take whatever you want." That phrase, "you people," hung in the air like a toxic cloud. Several bystanders who had been watching from a distance moved closer, sensing the situation was about to get worse. A young mother quickly ushered her children away from the scene. The man stepped closer to Angela, invading her personal space. "Look, I don't care what you think happened. Move your car now, or we'll make you move it." Angela stood her ground. She'd faced down armed insurgents. She wasn't about to be intimidated by two entitled shoppers. "Sir, I'm asking you to step back. This parking spot is legitimately mine." The woman suddenly pulled out her phone and started recording. "Everyone needs to see this," she announced loudly. "This woman is stealing our parking spot, and now she's threatening us." Angela couldn't believe what she was hearing. The couple was twisting the situation completely. She noticed several other phones were now pointed at the scene. Other shoppers were recording too. The man's anger seemed to feed off his wife's dramatic performance. He moved even closer to Angela, close enough that she could smell his expensive cologne mixed with the sourness of his rage. "You don't belong here," he spat. "This is a nice neighborhood. Why don't you go back to where you came from?" The words hit Angela like a physical blow. After serving her country for 8 years, after earning medals for bravery, after protecting the very freedoms that allowed this man to speak to her this way, she was being told she didn't belong. The woman continued her theatrical recording, narrating a completely false version of events. "She just came out of nowhere and stole our spot. Now she's being aggressive and refusing to move." Angela noticed more security guards in the distance, but they seemed hesitant to approach. She understood confrontations like this were tricky to handle, but she also knew she needed to document what was really happening. "Ma'am, sir, I'm going to ask you one more time to step away from my vehicle," Angela said firmly. "You're creating a disturbance and making false accusations." The man's response was to slam his hand on the hood of her car. "I'm not going anywhere until you move this piece of junk." The sound echoed through the parking lot. Several people gasped. This was no longer just about a parking space, it had become something much uglier. The woman stopped recording for a moment to egg her husband on. "Show her she can't disrespect us like this. We pay good money to shop here." Angela felt her training kick in. She recognized the signs of escalation, the reddening faces, the clenched fists, the increasing volume of their voices. She'd been taught to de-escalate situations like this, but these people seemed determined to create a confrontation. "I'm calling security," Angela announced, reaching for her own phone. "Don't you dare," the man shouted, moving to block her car door. "You're not going anywhere until this is settled." The woman had started recording again, but now her narrative had taken an even darker turn. She was making comments about Angela's appearance, her character, and even questioning whether she could afford to shop at this mall. The crowd of onlookers had grown larger. Some looked uncomfortable, others angry at what they were witnessing. A few people were shaking their heads in disgust at the couple's behavior, but no one stepped forward to help. Angela stood tall, her military bearing evident even in civilian clothes. She knew this situation was about to reach a critical point. What happened next would depend on how well she could maintain her composure in the face of increasing hostility and blatant discrimination. What happened next seemed to unfold in slow motion. The man, his patience apparently exhausted, suddenly lunged forward and tried to grab Angela's car keys from her hand. His movement was clumsy and aggressive, driven more by anger than any real strategy. Angela's military reflexes kicked in instantly. Without thinking, she performed a simple defensive move, stepping back and securing her keys while deflecting his reaching hand. It was a basic self-defense technique, executed with precision but without any intent to harm. "Don't touch me," Angela warned, her voice firm but controlled. She was careful not to escalate the situation further, even though she had every right to defend herself. The man stumbled forward, caught off balance by his failed attempt. His wife let out a dramatic gasp, still recording with her phone. He attacked her. Someone in the crowd shouted, but the wife immediately spun the narrative. "Did you see that? She just assaulted my husband." The woman screeched, waving her phone around. "I got it all on video." The man, embarrassed by his failed attempt and spurred on by his wife's encouragement, became even more aggressive. He tried to push Angela's car door closed to trap her between the door and the car frame. Angela quickly stepped away from the door, maintaining a safe distance. She was trained to assess threats and respond appropriately, and she could see this situation was spiraling out of control. The wife, seeing an opportunity, dropped her phone into her purse and rushed forward. With her long, manicured nails extended like claws, she tried to scratch Angela's face while screaming, "You don't touch my husband!" Angela raised her arms to protect her face, using another basic defensive move. She didn't strike back, didn't retaliate, she simply protected herself. The woman's nails caught Angela's forearm instead, leaving red marks but not breaking the skin. "Stop, this is assault," Angela called out clearly, making sure the growing crowd could hear. She knew it was important to vocalize what was happening, especially with so many witnesses around. The mall security cameras mounted on nearby light poles were capturing everything. Their red lights blinked steadily, recording every moment of the confrontation. Several shoppers were also recording on their phones, creating multiple angles of the incident. The couple seemed to have lost all sense of reason. The man tried again to grab at Angela, this time attempting to pull her away from her car. His wife continued her attack, swinging her designer handbag like a weapon. Angela's training served her well. She used minimal force to maintain her safety, employing techniques designed to protect without causing injury. Each time they came at her, she deflected or evaded, never once striking back in anger. "Someone call the police," a teenage boy shouted from the crowd. "I already did," responded an elderly woman who was watching from her car. The couple didn't seem to hear or care about these warnings. They were completely focused on Angela, their anger apparently blinding them to the reality of the situation, that they were committing assault in broad daylight, in front of dozens of witnesses and multiple cameras. The woman kept shouting accusations while trying to land blows. "She's stealing from us. She attacked my husband. Someone stop her." But the crowd wasn't buying it. Many had seen the whole incident from the beginning. They knew Angela had done nothing wrong, that she was simply defending herself against an unprovoked attack. A young man in the crowd started narrating what was really happening, loud enough for everyone to hear. "These people are attacking her over a parking space. She's just defending herself." More voices joined in, calling out the truth of what they were witnessing. The tide of public opinion was clearly against the attacking couple, but they seemed too consumed by their rage to notice or care. Angela continued to defend herself with remarkable restraint. Despite being fully capable of ending the confrontation with force, she chose the path of minimum necessary response. Every move she made was defensive, designed to protect rather than harm. The attack continued for what felt like hours but was actually just minutes. Angela's composure never wavered, even as the couple grew more desperate and erratic in their assault. She knew help was on the way, and she was determined to handle the situation professionally until it arrived. Just when the situation seemed like it couldn't get any more intense, the sound of laughter and friendly chatter cut through the tension. A group of 5 people, all wearing matching Marine Corps t-shirts, was walking toward the commotion from the mall entrance. They were members of Angela's unit, coincidentally at the mall for a squad lunch after their morning workout. "Hey, isn't that Thompson's car?" one of them said, squinting at the familiar sedan. As they got closer, their casual demeanor quickly changed. They could see their fellow Marine, their sister in arms, being attacked by 2 civilians. The transformation was immediate. Their relaxed postures straightened, their expressions hardened, and they moved with purpose toward the scene. Staff Sergeant Thompson called out Corporal Rodriguez, the youngest member of the group. His voice carried across the parking lot with military precision. The attacking couple froze mid-assault. The woman's hand was still raised, the man still trying to grab at Angela. They turned to see 5 fit, determined-looking individuals approaching with unmistakable military bearing. Angela felt a wave of relief wash over her, though she maintained her defensive stance. "Perfect timing, Marines," she said calmly. The couple's demeanor changed instantly. The man stepped back, trying to appear casual. The woman quickly smoothed her hair and adjusted her clothes as if she hadn't just been attacking someone. "These are my colleagues," Angela explained to the crowd, her voice steady. "We served together at the base." The Marines formed a protective semicircle around Angela, not threatening but clearly establishing their presence. Sergeant Martinez, the senior member of the group, assessed the situation with experienced eyes. "Is everything all right here, Staff Sergeant?" he asked formally, loud enough for everyone to hear. The couple's faces had gone pale. The woman clutched her phone nervously, suddenly realizing that her own recording might not tell the story she wanted it to. "These individuals attacked me over a parking space," Angela reported in a clear, professional tone. I've been defending myself while waiting for security or police to arrive. The man tried to change his story immediately. No, you've got it all wrong. She took our parking spot and then got aggressive with us. We were just trying to reason with her. Several people in the crowd started shouting objections. That's not true. We saw everything. They attacked her. The woman, sensing their story was falling apart, tried a different approach. We didn't know she was military. This is all just a misunderstanding. Corporal Washington, who had been quietly observing, spoke up. So it would have been okay to attack her if she wasn't military. The question hung in the air, highlighting the absurdity of their defense. The Marines maintained their professional composure, but their presence alone was enough to completely change the dynamic. The couple, who had been so bold moments before, now looked like they wanted to disappear. I've already called security and the police, announced the elderly woman from earlier. They should be here any minute. The men tried one last desperate attempt to save face. Look, maybe we overreacted. We can just forget this whole thing happened, right? Negative, Sergeant Martinez responded firmly. Assault is a serious matter. You'll need to wait for the authorities. The mall security guards finally arrived, followed closely by 2 police officers. The scene they found was very different from what they might have expected. Instead of chaos, they saw a group of disciplined Marines calmly containing a situation. The couple tried to slip away, but the crowd had formed a natural barrier. Their own aggressive actions had trapped them in a situation of their own making. Officers, I need to report an assault, Angela stated professionally as the police approached. Multiple witnesses and security cameras can verify what happened. The woman's phone, still in her purse, had become her worst enemy. What she thought would be her weapon was now evidence against her. The other recordings from the crowd would tell the true story. The Marines stood by their colleague, their presence a powerful reminder that Angela was not alone. The couple's attempt to bully and intimidate had backfired spectacularly, and now they would have to face the consequences of their actions. The police officers approached the scene with notebooks in hand, their body cameras recording everything. Officer Chen, a veteran with 15 years on the force, took charge of the situation immediately. All right, everyone, let's sort this out, he said calmly. Who called this in? The elderly woman raised her hand. I did, officer. I saw the whole thing from start to finish. Ma'am, we need to see the security footage right away. Officer Chen directed the mall security guard. Can you take us to your office? The security guard nodded and led one officer away, while Officer Rodriguez stayed to take statements. The couple stood nervously, their earlier confidence completely gone. We want to press charges, the man suddenly blurted out. She assaulted us. Sir, please wait your turn, Officer Rodriguez said firmly. We'll get everyone's statement. As witnesses began sharing their accounts, the truth became crystal clear. One by one, people described how the couple had initiated the confrontation, used offensive language, and physically attacked Angela. I have it all on video, said a college student, showing his phone to the officer. They went after her first. She was just defending herself. Me too, added another witness. I started recording when they began yelling. The woman clutched her purse tighter, realizing her own recording would contradict everything they were trying to claim. She whispered urgently to her husband, but Officer Rodriguez noticed. Ma'am, I understand you were recording as well. We'll need to see that footage. Her face went white. I think I deleted it by accident. That's interesting, Officer Rodriguez replied, making a note. Because several witnesses mentioned you were recording the entire time. 20 minutes later, Officer Chen returned from viewing the security footage. His expression said everything. The mall cameras captured the entire incident, he announced. They clearly show these 2 individuals as the aggressors. The couple's expensive facade began to crumble. The man's red face had turned ghostly pale, and the woman kept fidgeting with her designer jewelry. Sir, ma'am, please turn around and place your hands behind your back, Officer Chen instructed. What? You can't be serious, the man protested. Do you know who I am? I'm a senior executive at Morrison Financial. And I'm a licensed real estate agent, the woman added desperately. This is ridiculous. What's ridiculous is assaulting someone over a parking space, Officer Rodriguez responded as he placed handcuffs on the man. "You're under arrest for assault and battery." The woman began crying as she too was handcuffed. "This will ruin us. Please, we made a mistake." The crowd watched in silence as karma unfolded before their eyes. The same people who had acted so superior, who had tried to bully and intimidate, were now being led away in handcuffs. "Wait," the woman cried out. "What about our car?" "It'll be towed to the impound lot," Officer Chen explained. "You can retrieve it after you're processed and released." As they were led to the police cars, the reality of their situation began to sink in. Their Saturday shopping trip had turned into a nightmare of their own making. The Marines stayed with Angela as she gave her official statement. She remained professional throughout, providing a detailed account without embellishment or emotion. "Thank you for your service, Staff Sergeant," Officer Chen said after taking her statement. "And I'm sorry this happened to you." Angela nodded. "Thank you, officer. I'm just glad there were so many witnesses." As the police cars drove away with the couple in the back seats, the crowd began to disperse. People shook their heads, some expressing disbelief at what they'd witnessed. "Can you believe they thought they could get away with that?" one shopper commented to another. "The cameras are everywhere these days," replied an older man. "And everyone has a phone. You can't hide the truth anymore." The tow truck arrived to take the couple's expensive SUV away. As it was loaded onto the flatbed, it seemed like a perfect symbol of how quickly their privileged world had come crashing down. Angela's fellow Marines gathered around her, offering support and making sure she was okay. "Well, Staff Sergeant," Sergeant Martinez said with a slight smile, "I don't think they'll be bothering anyone else over a parking space anytime soon." The karma had indeed been swift and complete. The next morning, Angela sat at her kitchen table with a cup of coffee, filling out the official police report. Her phone hadn't stopped buzzing since the incident. Word had spread quickly through the base, and messages of support poured in from fellow service members. But it wasn't just her military family who had heard about what happened. By Sunday afternoon, the story had exploded on social media. Multiple videos from different angles were circulating online, each showing the same truth: a decorated Marine being attacked by an entitled couple over a parking space. The local news picked up the story first. "Local Marine assaulted at shopping center," read the headline on the evening news. The security footage, released by the mall with permission, showed the entire incident in clear detail. By Monday morning, the story had gone national. The couple's names were now public, and the consequences began rolling in like a tidal wave. At Morrison Financial, the executive board held an emergency meeting. The men's face was plastered across news sites alongside headlines about workplace discrimination and assault. Within hours, the company released a statement. "Morrison Financial does not tolerate discrimination or violence in any form. Effective immediately, Mr. Wilson has been terminated from his position as Senior Vice President. His company email was deactivated, his office cleared out, and his parking pass revoked." 20 years of climbing the corporate ladder had crumbled in a weekend. The woman's real estate agency faced similar pressure. Clients began calling to cancel listings, refusing to work with someone who had shown such prejudiced behavior. The agency's phone rang constantly with complaints and threats of boycotts. The State Real Estate Commission announced an investigation into her conduct. "Ethical behavior is paramount in our profession," their statement read. "Pending investigation, Ms. Wilson's license has been temporarily suspended." Their social media accounts, once filled with pictures of luxury homes and family vacations, were bombarded with angry comments. They tried deleting their profiles, but screenshots had already preserved everything. Their neighbors in the upscale subdivision began distancing themselves. The woman who used to organize the neighborhood book club quietly removed them from the group chat. The man who played golf with Mr. Wilson every Sunday stopped returning his calls. At their children's private school, other parents whispered in the pickup line. Their daughter came home in tears, saying her friends weren't allowed to play with her anymore. Their son's football teammates stopped inviting him to team gatherings. The local country club, where they had been members for a decade, sent a formal letter. "Due to recent events that contradict our values of respect and dignity for all, your membership has been revoked." Even their church, where they attended services every Sunday, felt the impact. The pastor called them in for a private meeting about their actions and the message it sent to the community. Angela, meanwhile, continued serving with dignity. She didn't seek out the media attention but gave one brief statement to the local news. "I've served my country for 8 years. I've faced challenges far greater than this. What happened was unfortunate, but I hope it serves as a lesson about treating all people with respect, regardless of their background." Her unit rallied around her. The base commander called her personally to express support. Fellow Marines shared their own stories of facing discrimination, creating a dialogue about respect and equality. The couple tried damage control. They hired a PR firm and released a carefully worded apology. "We deeply regret our actions and the hurt we've caused. This incident does not reflect our true values." But the internet never forgets. Their half-hearted apology was met with skepticism and more criticism. People pointed out that they only expressed regret after facing consequences, not because they truly understood what they'd done wrong. Local businesses that had once welcomed their patronage now turned them away. Their favorite restaurant suddenly never had available reservations. Their dry cleaner was always too busy to take their clothes. The ripple effects continued for weeks. Every aspect of their privileged life had been touched by the consequences of their actions. Their attempt to bully someone they saw as less than had backfired spectacularly, exposing their true character to the world. As one viral comment put it, they thought they were teaching her a lesson about her place. Instead, they learned a lesson about theirs. 6 months later, the courthouse was packed. The case had drawn significant attention, with local media and community members filling every available seat. Angela arrived in her dress uniform, her medals gleaming under the fluorescent lights. Her fellow Marines sat in the front row, a show of unwavering support. The couple entered the courtroom looking very different from that day at the mall. Gone were the designer clothes and confident swagger. They appeared smaller somehow, their expensive lawyer unable to restore the superiority they once felt. The prosecutor presented a compelling case. Security footage played on the courtroom screens, showing every moment of the attack. Multiple witness testimonies confirmed Angela's account. Even the couple's own cell phone video, which they had tried to delete but was recovered by forensic experts, became damning evidence against them. Angela took the stand with military precision. She recounted the events calmly, without anger or embellishment. When asked why she didn't fight back more aggressively, she replied, "I'm trained to use appropriate force. They were civilians. My goal was to protect myself, not to harm them." Character witnesses spoke about Angela's service record, her commendations for bravery, and her dedication to protecting others. Her commanding officer testified about her leadership qualities and integrity. The defense tried to paint the incident as a misunderstanding and a momentary lapse in judgment, but the evidence was overwhelming. The jury deliberated for only 3 hours. "On the charge of assault and battery, we'd find the defendant guilty," the foreman announced. The man received 18 months in prison, while his wife got 12 months of probation with mandatory community service and diversity training. But the legal consequences were just the beginning. As part of their sentence, they were required to pay substantial fines and Angela's legal fees. They had to sell their house to cover the costs, moving to a modest apartment in a different neighborhood. The incident became a case study in the state's hate crime legislation. Lawmakers used it as an example of why stronger protections were needed. A new bill, informally known as Angela's Law, increased penalties for bias-motivated assaults. Angela, promoted to gunnery sergeant partly due to her exemplary conduct during the incident, used her experience to make a difference. She began speaking at schools and community centers about respect, dignity, and standing up against discrimination. The mall where it all happened implemented new policies. They installed additional security cameras, hired more diverse security staff, and created a zero-tolerance policy for discrimination. They even invited Angela to help train their security team on de-escalation techniques. Angela's unit started a community outreach program called Bridges Not Walls. They partnered with local organizations to promote understanding between the military and civilian communities. The program included workshops on diversity, respect, and conflict resolution. The couple, after serving their sentences, attempted to rebuild their lives. They moved to another state, but their reputation followed them. The man found work at a small company at a fraction of his former salary. The woman eventually got her real estate license reinstated but struggled to find clients. Years later, they reached out to Angela with a genuine apology. They had finally understood the gravity of their actions and the pain they had caused. Angela, showing the same grace she had displayed throughout the ordeal, accepted their apology. "Forgiveness doesn't erase what happened," she told them, "but it allows us all to move forward." The shopping center parking lot where it all began now has a small plaque near the entrance. It reads, "In honor of all who stand against injustice with dignity and courage." Angela's story became more than just a viral moment. It became a teaching tool, a reminder that standing up for what's right matters and that actions have consequences. Schools use the case in their anti-bullying programs. Military academies included it in their ethics courses. Most importantly, it showed that in a world where injustice still exists, there are people like Angela who face it with strength, dignity, and unwavering principle. Her response to hatred wasn't more hatred, but rather a demonstration of the values she swore to protect: justice, equality, and respect for all. The parking spot that started it all? It's just a parking spot. But the lesson it taught resonates far beyond that shopping center, reminding us all that how we treat others defines who we are.